Good afternoon. I'm very glad to see you online, at this seminar. And I see that today we have pretty many participants, and I'm more than happy about that. So my name is Galina Sharonova, and I'm the senior methodologist at ОНАРА. And today we will be talking about a pretty trendy thing, pretty trendy issue, which is L1, use of L1 in the classroom. So, just a few comments before we start. So I really would like this session to be interactive. Yes, so that's why just during this session, can you please share your ideas, your experiences, at least in the chat box. I will give you time to get acquainted with tasks, to process it, and then to react. And also my message to you is please don't be shy. And if you have ideas to share, please switch your microphones on, because your experience is really great, is really beneficial. So, as you can see, the name of this session is L1, to use or not to use. And this particular session will be based on the materials by Helbling publisher, in particular the series For Real Plus. It's for teenagers. And you see the cover is William Shakespeare, Hamlet. So Hamlet had this dilemma, to be or not to be. So, today we will be talking about L1, to use or not to use. So we'll discuss this moral dilemma for teachers and what we should do about that. Okay, great. So I'm so happy that we have participants from St. Petersburg. That's really cool. So, talking about, this particular session, it has a few aims. So the first aim is, to identify how actually L1 or mother tongue affects learning L2. I guess that in our case, L2 is English. So, and L1 is Russian. So then the second aim is to discuss and outline the reasons why our students tend to switch to L1, why it's so tempting. Then the third aim is to discuss some cases, some situations when we should use L1 and why. What can be the reasons, what can be the activities, and so on. So, and last but not least, it's bonus for you, we will discover or maybe rediscover some translation activities. So which are really beneficial, which are aiming at developing language awareness and, of course, honing skills. Okay, good. Sounds like a good plan. So, talking about the relationship between L1 and L2, let's move on and try to answer this question. How does L1 affect learning L2? What are the reasons? What is the theory behind it? So first, any ideas that you would like to share? So is there this relationship between L1 and L2? Okay. Yes, thank you, Nadezhda. So there can be interference to help. Yes. That's true that it goes all together. So, well, the first reason, the first factor is that, when we deal with adult learners and also teenagers, I mean, when we become more cognitively mature, when we deal with such learners, then they have already developed their strategies and their organized ways helping them focus on taking in and processing information. So yes, okay. And also the second idea behind it is that learners anyway compare languages via language transfer. So this is actually how these two languages relate to each other. Yes, so we have language transfer, and it happens the way that adult learners, we anyway filter all the new knowledge through our background knowledge, background experience, and also our background learning experience. Yes, so that means that we cannot actually avoid it. It will happen anyway, whether we want it or not. So, and we're dealing with cognitively mature learners. And also language transfer, it was mentioned in the chat, that there is this interference, so it can cause interference, L1 interference, then it can also cause interlanguage, so these are natural stages. Okay. Great. So talking about comments, in the chat box. So we need to develop bilingual thinking, and L1 helps with it. Yes, it does. It does. So there are some similar patterns. Yeah, there can be similar patterns, and there can be totally different patterns. We will see what we can do about that. Okay, so, but in short, this is how it all happens and how these two languages are interrelated. So then, talking about our students, we mentioned it at the beginning of the session, saying that it's really tempting for them to switch to L1. And let's okay, well, these are the books which you can read to learn more about, this theory. And moving on to the students, then there is a question which I want to address to you. So why do you think students want to switch to L1? Again, can you please write your ideas in the chat box? Why is it so tempting? Okay, so trying to speak English, they use their knowledge of their own language, which is natural, They have background. Yes, okay, They may not feel confident, or they do not have enough vocabulary. Yes, that is also the reason. So, okay. Well, the reasons which may be here, we do share many ideas. So the first is that learners want to double check everything, especially when they are at the beginning of their learning journey. Yes, by the way, Yelena, thank you for your comment in the chat box. Like if they want to double check everything, they really want to be properly understood. Yes, and they also need to double check if they have understood everything right. So, And I think that in your classroom, you do have learners who really want to double check everything. So, the second reason is that, talking about the previous experience, and this is what, you mentioned also in the chat box. Students' previous learning experience can intervene here. Maybe they used to be corrected a lot. I mean, when the teacher was applying immediate or hot error correction. Yeah, so for some students, it's really demotivating and they are just simply afraid to make a mistake. So, then the reason can be that students' attention span is short. Well, even though we are talking about adult learners, still our attention span can be pretty short. Yeah. So, and also as students usually have their lessons after their long work days, maybe early in the morning. I mean that they can just be simply tired. Yeah, and also they can be tired and overwhelmed with English. Yeah, like there is too much English, and especially at low levels, they may even say this, like just I need some time to speak Russian, or just I can't really concentrate and I need to say something in Russian. That can also be the reason. Well, and also, the fourth possible reason is that, they don't have enough language to express their ideas. Yeah, this is what you also mentioned. Yeah, language means both lexis and grammar structures. Just, they don't have this language and still they want to share their ideas. And that's why they may switch to L1. So, and then, talking about this moral dilemma, to use or not to use. Yeah, so this is what we deal with as teachers. And I would like to challenge you a little bit. Well, there will be some cases. And I would like you to write in the chat box whether you think we should use or shouldn't use L1. Okay, for example, when we give instructions to use or not to use. Depends, okay. Okay, depends on the task, normally not to use. Good. Depends, it's a very good word. Maybe yes, maybe no. Depends on the level. Yeah, not to use, or we may use. You see. Yes, so you see that your comments in the chat box show that it's a real dilemma. Okay. Yeah, so first we should make sure that they understand instructions. Good. A teacher can serve as a language model. Yes, for sure. But instructions is our functional language. And so it's more about the way you communicate and collaborate at the lesson with the students. Okay, so Irina, thank you for your comment. If we gave a task and the students don't understand it, it means we did a bad job and had to think about the task more thoroughly. Okay, why not? Good, good, great. I will comment on it a little later. So then, to use or not to use when we manage discipline. So managing discipline, can we switch to L1? Okay, so Lizzie, you are for it. Okay, yes. We have to. Okay. So, well, Julian, thank you for your comment. I'm so happy that you don't have this problem at university. So it depends on the age, yeah. So, to some degree, yeah. Okay, unless we don't have some good techniques. Yeah. Okay. So, so at A1, A2, B1 level, we can discuss discipline in English already. At A2 level, yes. Okay, and so there are some people like Natalia who have this problem at university. Okay, yeah, things may happen. Good, good. So, well, good. Let's move on. I will comment on it as well. Well, what about the case when we need to translate new words that students are asking for? Should we switch to L1? So like your students are asking you for some language, and there is a dilemma to translate these words or not. No idea. Sometimes it is even better to translate than to explain. Okay. So when it's possible to explain the exact meaning in English, yes, we can do this. Names of birds and trees. Oh, yes. Good. So my first try would be doing it in English. But if I saw it didn't do the work, I definitely have to switch to L1 in primary classes. Okay, okay. So, thank you. Then, okay, thank you, Claire. If you need to create a clear context, then elicit from the learners. Okay, yeah. Thanks a lot. Then the next case, yeah, when we need to explain the target language. Target language is like full of vocabulary or grammar structures, which we definitely want our students to learn at the lesson. So shall we? Okay, so L1 only when they tell you the word, but don't know the English word you're trying to elicit. Okay, I guess this is the comment to the previous idea, yeah? Senior classes, translation is an immensely useful skill in real life, which we often overlook in communicative methodology. Explaining new grammar, we may switch to L1. Okay, so then the next case, when you are providing a follow-up for the activities, like you have done some core activities and then you want your students to do more. So at the end, so translation is a skill that needs to be learned. Yes, Claire, I do agree with you. Context is important, for sure. Okay, okay. But well, what about providing a follow-up for the activities? Like you want your students to do something more, and then you're thinking of switching to L1. Okay. Yes. Well, Good, good. Well, and then last but not least, when you want to scaffold a speaking or writing activity. So scaffold is like support, stage properly. Yes, no, to use or not to use. Okay, so not to use, or to use. Writing with PhD students. So like you think that, yeah, yes, you may switch to L1 or definitely no. Okay, so thank you, Claire, for your question. Why would you need to use L1 if you have a clear context and your instructions are clear? That's a good question. Yeah. Yes, so it depends on the level. Well, maybe. So then, talking about, well, these cases, yeah, then giving instructions, yes and no. Yeah, and our next slide will be about that. Then managing discipline, yes. And then a very, very small cross, like yes and no, because yeah, sometimes it's really better to switch to, well, L1 when you manage discipline, especially when you are dealing with young learners. But maybe at the beginning of the course, because later on, when you introduce, well, certain rules and rewarding system, and your young learners have, well, the idea of what is going on, then, well, it's not so necessary maybe to switch to L1. Well, you can use different tools rather than like speaking students' mother tongue. Well, then translating new words students are asking for. Yes and no. Again, we will discuss it a little bit later. So, the next case, explaining target language. Nope. So, yeah, because, well, when we do it, we do have a clear context. Yeah, no need to do this. Well, and we will talk a little bit more about it a little bit later. So when you want to provide a follow-up for the activities, yeah, why not? We may use L1. And when you want to scaffold a speaking or writing activity, then okay, yes, that's also well, it's also the case when you may switch to L1. Okay, so well, talking about instructions. Yes, so here, as you see, it can be yes and no. Well, sorry, yeah, regarding managing discipline, we are not going to talk about it today because it's more related to teaching young learners and very young learners. And well, our target group or target audience today is adults. So, well, then let's get back to instructions. Yeah, so it can be yes and no. Well, actually, well, when we give instructions, then there is no need to use L1. Well, our instructions should be clear. And as well, we mentioned it, so your instructions are your functional language. And usually, well, I think that the majority of course books, they have first units dedicated to classroom language. This is like what we usually start our course with, so that your students know what to expect, what is expected from them, and so on. So, and then, okay, so talking about clear instructions. Well, in your in the chat box, can you please write your ideas, like what are clear instructions? So what are the criteria or features of clear instructions? Short, okay. So please mute yourself. Okay. Well. Okay, short, precise, with examples. Yeah, so yeah, that's a nice comment. Those that will enable students to do the task. Yes, yeah, they're short and don't include sophisticated vocabulary. Yeah, that's also a very important feature. Yes, Claire, thank you for your comments. Checked, demonstrated, easy to understand. Yeah. So yeah, we can't confuse our students, of course, when we give instructions. Yeah. So if we do this, then it can turn into a real mess. Okay. So then, yeah, talking about features, instructions are clear and simple. Yes, and they are logically staged, especially if we are talking about instructions to some big tasks. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, I can't find where I can mute everybody. So, and can you please, switch off your microphones? Yeah, but if you are ready to share your ideas, please do this. So then the next important feature of instructions is that you need to use the proper tone, eye contact. Yeah, you need to make sure that your students know that you're going to give instructions. Yeah, then gestures, body language can help you reinforce your instructions. Yeah, of course, you should ask ICQs, which are instruction checking questions. Yeah, and by the way, is the question, do you understand? A good example of an ICQ. Is it? Okay, no. Yeah, they can lie. Yeah, they can lie. Agree, Natalia. Yeah, or just anything may happen. And in my teaching experience, I've been trapped asking this question a couple of times, I would say, even with very experienced students. So, and also you should model the task. Yeah, so it's a good idea to model the task with a student, yeah, maybe with a strongest student. Yes, for example, let's do line 1 together. Yeah, so Claire, thank you. Yeah, okay. It's another pointless check question. Yeah, so that's true. That's true. Okay, do you understand? Clear? Yeah. Okay, these are not ICQs. These are the features of effective instructions. And actually, while giving instructions, even being very experienced teachers, we may find it difficult. Yeah, so I would like to challenge you, and you can see an extract from the For Real Plus book published by Helbling. This is the intermediate level, and there is a task, there is exercise number 3. First take a minute to get acquainted with the materials. So, well, I can give you a minute or two to think of the instructions that you would like to, well, which you can give to this particular task. And I need super brave teachers who can and would like to switch on their microphones to share it. Okay, so the task is to think of the instructions to task number 3. Yes, it's a speaking task. Yeah, you can see an extract from the website for parents. These are tips for parents, what to do and what to do. Yeah, when dealing with their teenage kids. Yes, and task 3, it's pair work, and students need to choose 3 tips from 10 given here. So I would agree that the instructions to the task are not so clear themselves. Yes, they have to discuss, it's pair work, yeah, they have to discuss, share which ideas they have chosen and why. And then in task 4, which is follow up, they need to add 2 more ideas. So, does anybody want to give instructions to task number 3? So, Lydia, you can't hear me? Okay, so Yelena, good question. Why is it important? If parents don't follow these recommendations, what will it lead to? They use to express yourself. Yeah, okay, again, talking about instructions, instructions to this activity were pretty nice. So your task now is to give instructions to task number 3. Imagine that you are teaching this group and you need to give instructions to this task. Okay. So if we need to get to draw students' attention to the task, first we need to demonstrate the task. To demonstrate this extract from the website. So this is the website for parents with some tips on how to deal with their teenage kids. So what can be the next instruction to this task? So work in pairs, read the tips and choose 3 tips you think are good ideas. And talk about them with your partner, say why you think these are good ideas. So that can be a short instruction. Yeah, after that, yeah, you can ask CCQs, ICQs, and well, model the task. Yeah, but the fact that they are going to work in pairs, yeah, should be mentioned first, I guess. Okay, good. Well, then let's move on. And well, I can talk about instructions for ages. Oh, great. We have stages from Alina in the chat box. Yes, okay. ICQs, instructions checking questions, like questions you ask to make sure that students know what they are going to do. Questions like, are you going to work on your own or in pairs? Yeah, how many ideas do you need to choose? 10 or 3? Yeah, so ICQs, like some specific questions to the task, to the activity actually. Okay, great. So, and well, yeah, as you remember, in the previous slide, we had a tick and a cross next to given instructions. So, because, well, when we give instructions, maybe at low levels, we may give a kind of sandwich instructions. Yeah, when we give well, instructions in L2 first, then repeat them in L1, and then again say them in L2. This is not the well, the technique which we should always be using at low levels. No, maybe at the beginning of the course it may help. Yes, so that's why it's like well, no, like it's not a good idea to switch to L1, but maybe yes in this particular case. So good. Well, next one, the next case which we were discussing was the case when our students are asking for new words. Yeah, and we need to decide whether we should translate these words or not. So when we were discussing it first, there was the comment that we need to well, we don't need to do this because context is clear, and well, like why should we do this? Yeah. Look at this extract. Again, it's taken from the For Real Plus book, and well, this is the elementary level, and this is the starter book. Well, look at 5A. Students are supposed to write sentences about themselves. And what do you think? At which stage can students ask the teacher to translate words they don't know? And what sort of words will they be? Okay, abstract nouns. Okay. Maybe at this stage, yes, students may need to talk about something abstract, but as this is an elementary level, okay, proper nouns. Prince William. Yeah, or just okay, different name. Yeah, so as you see, this task is pretty tricky because, well, we can anticipate that, we can assume that students do know the words which are given in brackets. Pizza, dance music, football. Yeah, this is, well, the vocabulary which will not cause any difficulty. But there is this magic word, etc. And this is when they need to use their ideas. And in this case, yeah, they may ask you for some words. Yeah, and then you as a teacher decide whether you should switch to L1 or not. On the one hand, there is this immediate need, yeah, and well, students are supposed to express their ideas, and if they lack vocabulary, why shouldn't you help them? And then when you are preparing for your lessons, in order to avoid translation, yeah, you need to anticipate the language that they will need, and for this reason you need to know your students and their interests. Then maybe at this stage of at the preparation stage, you may help your students with translation. But what is really tricky about it is that they may abuse your time, your effort, and you will turn into a Google translator or any translator, not a teacher. Yeah, so that's why if you decide to switch to L1 in this particular case, then be careful. Yeah, so in order to do it effectively. So, then the next case was when we explained target language, and there was a cross, like, no, definitely no, don't switch to L1. Really, you don't need to do this because, well, new target language is explained via the context and a variety of aids. So context is the key word, whatever approach you use. Yeah, and if context is clear, then students will get it, will understand what the new target language means. Yeah, so as an example, at low level, here we have elementary level. Yeah, so students may be dealing with visual aids. You see, there are pictures and then there are words, and then they need to match the words and the pictures. So then talking about higher levels, yeah, you can see the vocabulary exercise here on the right. This is the task for intermediate students. This is not just a vocabulary task. Students are provided with this task after they have done a reading task. Yes, so like I mean that there is a clear context for it. Yeah, so instead of matching key vocabulary with pictures, we match them with their definitions. And as you can see, at the intermediate level, we are not just dealing with single words, we deal with collocations, and it's very, very important. Okay, and I'm very happy that you like it. So, well, then the next case was when we need to provide our students with follow-up for the activities. And we had a tick there, which means that we may use L1. Follow-up activities, yeah, like these are the activities which we get our students to do after they have coped with some core tasks and activities. For example, they have done a reading task or maybe listening. They have gone through all the necessary stages, and well, it's clear for us that they have coped with all the comprehension tasks. And then we want to challenge them a little bit more. In particular, we want to challenge them with new vocabulary, and we want to introduce some follow-up tasks. There is a very good example and a very useful task, which I strongly recommend you to try out with your students. It is called word mining, like we mine for lexical gems. Well, this is the stage when students can work out new vocabulary, except for the target language. And for doing this, for word mining, yeah, we need to be focused. So they should be clear, clear reasons and clear criteria for doing this. The criteria can be the following. There can be some more ideas as well. So you may get your students to read the script or read the text again, and then find the chunks which they find useful or maybe related to a specific topic. Yeah, for example, if they read a text about climate change, then, well, they can pick out the vocabulary which they can use to talk about climate. Yeah, or, well, some negative trends, for example. Then they can find the chunks or structures which are different from Russian. So there can be an endless choice, but maybe, well, not. Then they can find the chunks whose meaning is not immediately obvious. Yeah, like, well, it's not so clear, 100% clear. Maybe, well, when they're dealing with phrasal verbs or maybe some metaphorical language. So, and then last but not least, they may find the chunks or structures that they've never seen before. Yeah, and well, they have never used. Well, they have never used, they have never seen before, they're like pretty close to each other. So, and you see, they have a clear focus for this, and they will be picking out some specific language. And I can tell you a secret, I stole this criteria from my former colleague and good friend, Elizabeth Jackson. You can see a link to her blog. So she was presenting once word mining at a big conference, and she got these great ideas. So unfortunately, we don't have time to do the task, which you can see now on this slide, but, well, I hope that I will give you some food for thought. This is the text from Real Plus Intermediate book about cyberbullying, and well, the book provides students with some good activities, yeah, so to, well, help them develop their reading skills. And then after they have done all these tasks, you may ask them to, well, do this word mining. And here we can see, well, some criteria. We can narrow down the focus, and well, they can really find a lot of interesting collocations and good and useful language. So, well, and then talking about the stage, or, well, the case when we want to help our students prepare for a speaking or writing activity. Yeah, it can be a good idea to use L1. Well, so of course, if you scaffold this process throughout the lesson, if there is clear context, students have the necessary language, then, yeah, like, there is actually no need to switch to L1 only. But well, sometimes it can help. Again, you can see an extract from the bonus unit for the elementary book. And this is the stage when students get acquainted with present perfect tense. And there are some clues for the questions that they can ask each other, and they're supposed to work in pairs and well, comment on these experiences, giving some follow-up. So, and in this case, you may switch to L1, when getting your students to prepare for this activity on their own, first in L1. Yeah, and well, while doing this, while your students are doing this task, of course, you should be monitoring, you should be taking notes on the language that they need and which they don't know yet. Yeah, and then help them with this language. Alternatively, students may rehearse a role play in L1 first. You can turn it into a role play, because, like, commenting on some experiences by making a sentence is not really communication. Yeah, so, well, they can do it in L1 first. Again, you should be a very careful teacher who is monitoring some and then helping them with the language. Well, as an option, students may brainstorm ideas well, for an essay, like talking about writing in L1 first. Again, that's a tricky thing, I would say. Yeah, if you are a very good, experienced, communicative teacher, then neither you nor your students are ready for this. But talking about writing and brainstorming ideas in L1 first, I once had this case when I had a student who was preparing for CAE, and his English was really fantastic, but he had problems with brainstorming ideas for the essay. And once actually he suggested this option. He asked me if he could first brainstorm his ideas in Russian, so that later on he will be well, he will write the text more quickly, and it helped. But of course, with the time being throughout the course, we did it less, and then he learned how to brainstorm ideas in English. And regarding these stages for preparing for the speaking activities, it's something unusual, it's something experimental. Yeah, so it may be too time consuming, really, and if you decide to do this, then you need to make sure that you have enough time for all these stages, because after, well, rehearsing and preparing in L1, role playing maybe in L1 first, of course you need to give students a chance to do it in L2. That's why they're actually at the English lesson. So, and then translation activities. Yes, so I agree with Claire, yeah, that translation is the skill which need to be learned. Yes, I definitely agree with you. But as you remember, yeah, as adult students do it subconsciously, yeah, like they anyway compare languages, then why not? Yeah, why not? We may satisfy this need. And so talking about translation activities, like let's move on to the next slide with the answers. There can be like 3 examples of pretty good and effective activities. So students can translate short texts in pairs or groups, and it should be a collaborative task, so that they can compare the language they can use to convey the original meaning. They may come up with a new language. They may start experimenting with the language, not only using the target language, but doing something more. They can translate sentences or microtexts into L1. This is what many teachers do, especially like teachers at state schools, but it's not that effective. If you then ask your students to translate these sentences or texts in L2 again, then it's a little bit more beneficial, because they will be trying to use the original language means. Then the next stage, which is a kind of developmental stage, is you may do a language upgrade, like what can be the other ways to express these ideas. And the third idea, it's an upgraded texting activity. Texting, this term was stolen from Teaching Lexicon book from Hugh Deller, actually. So it's when we make a sentence with some target language and then write 2 more sentences, one which goes before our sentence and after, to create a kind of a micro text. So you can do it in L1, like translate your core sentence into L1, then using, again, Russian, you may make this micro text and then translate it back into English. But what is also important is to provide your students with a language upgrade stage. Again, what are the other ways to express the same idea? So, well, like these translation activities are fun. They're aiming at developing, the translation skills as such, yes, and we will be digging in both languages. But you see, with the language upgrade stages, students will make one more step forward. Well, I hope that you will try them out with your students. I have done it, and they found it really, really beneficial and fun. So, and then last but not least, it may take much time. I agree, I definitely agree. But it can be part of your professional development. Just do something what you don't usually do. So, and then as students, may feel sometimes reluctant to speak English, and they switch to L1, then you should, relax them. Actually, what can be the ways to relax them? They can be a 1 minute of L1, okay, you can allow your students to use L1 for a minute. 1 minute maybe too mean, maybe a little bit more, but they should know that they have time in the lesson when they may use their mother tongue. Then it's important, it's a good idea to have feedback sessions in L1, especially the sessions related to the language. Feedback sessions in L1 can be done separately after the lessons or before the lessons. That can be a good idea. It can be pretty helpful. Then, talking about instructions, do prepare your instructions carefully. You may record yourself. You may script your instructions in the lesson plan, but you need to be clear. Then also you need to equip your students with a functional language in general and classroom language in particular. They need to understand what you want from them, what they're supposed to do. So, then you need, of course, to create a safe and comfortable atmosphere so that your students are not afraid to make mistakes. Then, don't be afraid to go beyond their expectations. Please experiment. Yes, some activities which I shared with you today may be too time consuming, yes, but this is something new. These are the new techniques and activities for you and for your students. They will also experiment with you. Today we have been talking about this moral dilemma, to use or not to use L1 in our classroom. This session has been pretty long, but I hope that it's been pretty effective and helpful. If you have questions, I will be more than happy to answer them. You can contact me here. You can see my email address, phone number. So thank you very, very much. So thank you. So happy that it was inspiring. Thank you. This session was recorded so that if you missed something, you can always get access to this recording on our YouTube channel. So thank you. You are very active today, and I'm very, very grateful for this. Enjoy your day and see you. Thank you.